Urbana is a unique place, and so we're going to start with a unique experience. Dr. Ruby Mendenhall, the Urbana Poet Laureate, is going to open tonight by reading one of her poems. Dr. Mendenhall is a professor of sociology, African American studies, urban and regional planning, gender and women's studies, and social work at the University of Illinois, and lots of other important appointments. But she's written over 100 poems, including one co-authored by the former Illinois Poet Laureate Ashanti Files, titled From Racism to Renaissance. So, Dr. Mendenhall, we welcome you to open our candidate forum tonight.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. As the mic falls, there we go. And I'm grateful to the City of Urbana and the Urbana Arts and Culture Program for selecting me as Poet Laureate. It has been a joy to be the Poet Laureate, to spend my time creating poems and then being able to share them, so I'm very grateful. And I actually have 3, and I just confirmed that it was okay to do 3. I didn't want to step outside of the bounds. So the first one is Two Sides of the Self, and it's a poem about sometimes in life when you feel hopeless, sometimes in life when you are not sure what to do, right? There's that one part of you, but then there's that other part that's resilient, that's all-knowing, so it's about that. When I am the storm, uprooting trees, you are the rainbow, promising a season of peace. When I am the dry earth, scorched and unproductive, you are a stream of water, quenching all who thirst. When I am a dancer, bound by culture, you are the ribbon cutter that unfolds me. When I am silenced and afraid for my life, you are a shield of protection, deflecting harm. When I sit with head bowed, you are the music of life, rhythmic and bold. When I am alone in the quiet of night, you are a soft whisper that holds me tight. When I am dissolving inside the cocoon, you are Rumi's ray of light entering the wound. When I am taking flight with broken wings, you are the beautiful voice that always sings. When I am timid and unsure of the next move, you are a wild dancer finding and enjoying your groove. When I am a daughter whose father has passed, you are the manifestation of his spirit inside the looking glass. When I am a mother loving Black boys as they become men, you are the wise one letting them go into the beauty of the wind. Thank you. And the second poem was created in celebration of me as I did the first kind of readings of my poetry. And at the Gallery Art Bar, thank you, so grateful. And it's called Stirring the Ancestral Pot. And that was the name of the drink that I said, I want it kind of warm, I want it kind of spicy, right? I want it kind of sweet. So it was all of that. So what I'm about to read is actually something that you can taste. So feel free to order it next time you go there. So it's called Stirring the Ancestral Pot. Drink to the beautiful moments when your soul soared above being human, when it was as free as the ruby red sun stirring the pot in the summer's heat. For your ancestors have transcended time with their golden whisper of love, saying, when life is as heavy as the tallest mountain, stir the ancestral pot for the strength to dissolve that solid earth. When the voice in your head is demanding what you cannot see, stir the ancestral pot until the rising smoke produces the miracles of alchemy. Chase your dreams from the U.S. to Jamaica's rolling hills. Lift the pot's lid and drink in the beauty from the ashes of hope now still. Choose, decide to devour the spices set before you. Thank you. And now this last one is inspired by a poem, Where I'm From by George Ellen Lyon. And when I heard it, I was like, oh man, I wish I could write a poem like that. So this is me writing something, and it's where I'm from. It just kind of talks about my background, right? Descendants of people who have been enslaved in this country and their resiliency that I am here now, right? And what you're looking at. So it's called I Am From. I come from African mud, baked beautifully brown. I come from the deep Atlantic Ocean, waves splashing cargo that was extraordinary and alive. This cargo remains in my cells and in my brown skin, calling me home to Africa. I come from people who could fly above and below death to avoid captivity, kissed blood orange by the sun and strange fruit on poplar trees. I come from Black men with zero income. Census records disappeared their labor on land, at sea, and in their minds, fighting to remain dignified and free. I come from Black women tending gardens, bursting with the colors of joy and hope, baking sweet bread and frying Johnny cakes to eat with chitlins and other food cast at their feet. They bow down to get it, for their children need it to grow into their potential and for their souls to be free. I come from infinite creativity that has sculpted this nation, rhythm and blues, jazzy tunes, funky gospel, country rap, hip-hop spiritual, sorrow songs, disco reggae, soul pop. Dr. P says, and we won't stop. I come from intensity and immensity, emancipators and freedom fighters. I come from dreamers and futurists, setting fires until they were free. I come from people that declare Happy Juneteenth. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mendenhall, and that's a great, unique Urbana welcoming. Good evening. My name is Tricia Crowley of the League of Women Voters of Champaign County. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, and the IMC, I welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. This forum is for the Democratic primary election on February 25th, 2025, for the office of the City of Urbana Ward 6 Council Member. Recording of this forum will be available on votechampaign.org, which is the League's candidate guide, and also the League's YouTube channel, links for both of which can be found on the League's website, lwvchampaigncounty.org. The forum will also be available on UPTV's YouTube page, which can be found from the City of Urbana website. I will be the moderator for this forum. Artis James and Ralph Trimble will be our timekeepers. Questions were solicited online to be sent to the League's candidate forum email address. From this forum, we received 19 questions. We're only likely to get to 10 to 12. For this reason, the question sorters have combined some citizens' questions to be able to cover as many topics as possible. Therefore, even if your question is asked, it is possible it will not be in the form you submitted. Also, since online questions were given preference and more were submitted than we can get to, no questions will be received from the audience tonight. The order for candidates is alphabetical, and therefore William Colbrook will open and Grace Wilkens will close. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. I'll then ask questions, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer these questions. At the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates will kindly refrain from negative attacks and will speak only to what they plan to do if elected to office. So we'll begin. Mr. Colbert, your opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Bill Colbrook, and I'm running to serve as the City of Urbana Alderman for Ward 6. I would like to thank everyone who is here and those who are watching at home. Thank you to everyone who made this candidate forum possible, including the League of Women Voters of Champaign County, the NAACP Champaign County Branch, and the IMC. I also thank my opponent for her willingness to serve. Finally, I want to thank my dear wife, my family, and volunteers for their unwavering support. I am running for alderman because I love Urbana and want to ensure our government works well for all residents. My wife and I have called Urbana home for nearly 20 years, raising our children here to benefit from its excellent schools and incredible diversity. Service has always been central to my life. I hold a master's degree in public administration with a focus on government and policy, and have 35 years of public service, including Director of Public Safety at Parkland College. When residents asked me to run, I stepped forward because Urbana deserves leadership that listens, cares, and acts. Over the past few months, I've met with residents and identified 4 key priorities, and you'll hear more about those tonight. Community safety. Everyone, regardless of their background, should be safe. Better infrastructure. We must fix potholes, calm traffic, and improve street safety. And affordable housing. Urbana needs more diverse and affordable housing options. And economic development. Revitalizing Philo Road, supporting local businesses, and expanding access to local food sources are key. I look forward to discussing our visions for Urbana. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Wilkens.
Thank you to our host tonight and the Urbana Poet Laureate and those of you watching and who provided questions for us tonight. I'm Grace Wilken, and I'm running for Ward 6 council position because I believe that our residents deserve a representative who will engage with them, listen to their input, and take a stand to represent their best interests. As a community, we often don't agree and we have different perspectives, and I think it's essential to listen to and consider all input from our community. I respond to inquiries and help residents navigate the system that, to have their voices heard, even if we disagree. I grew up in Champaign, Urbana, and attended public schools in Champaign and Head Start in Urbana. My family first moved to Urbana 2 blocks down the street on Vine Street to a small apartment when I was 4 months old. I've since earned bachelor's and master's degrees in Central Illinois universities and have volunteered in various nonprofit and community organizations in CU. I have over 10 years of teaching experience from preschool public schools to university level and over 6 years of science research experience, which is what I do currently. I became more engaged in our local government around 2020 with the movement for social justice and accountability for established structures. I followed and gave input at city council meetings and became a member of the Urbana Sustainability Advisory Commission before I ran for council office in 2021. I originally ran on the 3 principles of sustainability: community well-being, financial responsibility, and environmental resiliency. I still stand by those principles, and I've also learned more about the importance of public engagement, responsible and transparent government, and about the challenging and wonderful aspects of our Urbana community. I'm running for council again to serve as your representative for Ward 6 to continue to work for a transparent, engaged, and responsible government.
Thank you. For our first question, and this one actually I wrote myself. So to give our listeners some context for these questions and answers, can you describe the boundaries and character of Ward 6? Mr. Colbert.
The physical boundaries are roughly Philo Road, north-south, and then everything east of that, all the way to the south of the city, and to the east all the way to High Cross Road, and to the north, at least along Philo Road, it goes up to Washington Street. As you come east on Washington Street, it kind of follows through the Laramie corridor, and then it comes down to Michigan east-west. So Michigan east-west south is the northern boundaries. The character is quite diverse. There is housing, rental housing, multi-unit housing, the traditional housing, houses built in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and then there is, new development, in an area that I live in the southeast part of town. So the diversity is as wide in Ward 6 as it is anywhere in the city.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkins, can you give our listeners some context for these questions and answers? Can you describe the boundaries and character of Ward 6?
Yes, thank you. I think that the previous answers summed up the boundaries well, east of Philo and south of Washington, with some exceptions. And also note that the map has changed since the previous election cycle. So Ward 6 geographically shrunk some since the last time around. So please check the ward map if you're not sure if you're still in Ward 6. I'd say the character is a diverse mix of neighborhoods, ranging from various infrastructure and income levels. We have some community groups in the area, the Southeast Urbana Neighborhood Group, and then we have various neighborhoods like Savannah Green, the Learman Community, Stone Creek, Eagle Ridge, and much more. I think that these all have unique characters, and the Philo Road business corridor is something that I think is has an impact on a lot of Ward 6. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is for Ms. Wilkins. Would you vote for implementation of automatic license plate readers in Urbana? And if so, what kinds of conditions in implementation and for reporting back to council would you require?
Thank you. Automatic license plate readers is an issue that's been discussed in Urbana in these council chambers for over 3 years. I've been involved in those conversations and have a lot of thoughts on them. I don't think I can clarify all in 1 minute, but I think the gist of it is that we need public engagement in this process, we need council approval, and we need policies and reporting standards that are clearly laid out to protect residents. And I think unless we have any of those things in place and we fully consider the technologies and their impacts, that we really need to do that first before moving forward with any more expenses that could potentially put a lot of our residents at risk.
Mr. Colbrook, would you vote for the implementation of automated license plate readers in Urbana? And if so, what kinds of conditions in implementation and for reporting back to council would you require?
Yes, I'm a strong proponent of the automatic license plate or reader technology. With 35 years in law enforcement, I can speak for days of the evolution of technology in policing. When I first started in 1986, the best information we had was a 3x5 card system listing the residents and their addresses and contact information. The technology has just grown leaps and bounds in that 35-year period. Specifically, the ALPRs, they improve public safety. They quickly identify stolen vehicles, suspects, and missing persons. It increases efficiency because the automatic license plates checks that frees up officers to focus on other priorities, and it reduces mistakes because the officers can just focus on the data. The license plate reader is a data-driven system, and it takes away the impartiality of it. Urbana has not implemented it.
You're done. Okay. Mr. Colbert, here's a question was submitted. Many of the people on my block in Ward 6 have issues with flooded yards. What would you do to help them?
So actually flooding is an issue throughout Illinois. I was blessed when I was with the state of Illinois to partner with our government partners from Poland on a flooding exercise. And the topography of Poland is very similar to the topography of Illinois. We have lots of rivers and streams that get swollen and cause flooding. All it takes is to watch the news a couple months ago to find out our residents in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, North Florida that didn't think that they were in a flood zone. They realized quickly they were. I was also a part of the Regional Planning Commission committee that helped study the floodplains in Illinois. So it's important to study it, to read the data, and to give information and do public education so residents know if they're in a floodplain or not.
Ms. Wilkins, many of the people on my block in Ward 6 have reported issues with flooded yards. What would you do to help them?
Thank you. I think we definitely need resilient and green infrastructure practices in place. City staff did put in an ARPA application quite a few years ago, which was not funded with ARPA money, that was to have more green stormwater infrastructure in place. That's something that I continue to support us using other funds for, those kinds of projects as part of our regular city infrastructure. I also put in the budget and has finally implemented a Sustaining Urbana Neighborhoods Grant, which is an environmental grant program, at least one of which has to do with rain garden construction and water management with environmentally friendly and community building ways. I definitely recognize the seriousness of flooding and climate change and the need for resilient communities. Southeast Appalachia is a place close to my heart, and I experienced with them a few years ago some of the devastating floods that happened. So I absolutely agree with the severity and the need for resilient infrastructure.
Thank you. Here's a question that's submitted. I am a registered voter in Ward 6. I have seen both Ward 6 candidates and mayoral candidates list affordable housing as a goal. I would like to hear more details on what you envision beyond ideals when you say affordable housing.
Thank you. Housing and affordable housing and access is an essential need, obviously, for all human beings. And unfortunately, there are many things outside of direct city control. The city does not dictate rent market, the housing market, and there are a lot of things outside of that control. I think things that the city can and should do are things like enforcing our non-discrimination ordinance in housing so that people can use the vouchers that they have the right to use and be accepted in decent housing. I think we also need to address systemic issues of wage levels, housing options, and continue with government-supported affordable housing projects.
Thank you. Mr. Colbrook. I am a registered voter in Ward 6. I've seen both Ward 6 candidates and mayoral candidates list affordable housing as a goal. I would like to hear more details on what you envision beyond ideals when you say affordable housing.
This actually strikes incredibly close to me and my wife. Our grandkids are now to the age where they're wanting to leave the nest and they're looking for affordable housing. We know the struggle that they have in trying to find places that they possibly could rent. But I would encourage smart development. I'd promote zoning policies that allow diverse housing types such as accessory dwelling units and duplexes to increase affordability. Increase housing supply. I would work with developers or encourage the staff to work with developers and nonprofits to build more affordable housing options, including multifamily units and mixed income developments. And I would support renters and homeowners. I'd advocate for rental assistance programs, first-time homebuyer incentives such as Think Urbana. And I would strengthen community partnerships. I'd collaborate with local organizations to provide housing resources, financial literacy programs, and support for those at risk for homelessness.
Thank you. Mr. Colbrook, all candidates have indicated some level of support for alternative response for 911 calls. Please explain your vision for implementation, who would operate it, how would it be funded, and how would it link to meeting people's material needs?
Once again, I've got direct experience in this. I'm going to bring you back to 1986 when I was a patrolman on Pontiac Police Department. Got a call that somebody needed assistance. A woman was having a mental health breakdown, and she was actually beating her daughter with the, if we remember, the phone that hung on the wall. I responded to that call, and I spent hours and hours and hours working with that woman, trying to get her to a place of safety. It's important to know that the police officers are skilled at a lot of things, but what they need is alternatives, because there's experts in the field that could actually serve the residents in some of these areas better. I think it should be operated within the police department. The funding should be done directly through the city budget, and the way it would affect the material needs, instead of just getting a police officer who's skilled at a lot of things, you would actually get a subject matter expert with you at the call or quickly afterwards to give them expert guidance and leadership for their issue.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkins, all candidates have indicated some level of support for alternative response for 911. Please explain your vision for implementation, who would operate it, how it would be funded, and how you would link it to meeting people's material needs.
Thank you. A lot of this is still to be determined with our task force that is tasked with creating, designing some recommendations for the city. So a lot of it is still a work in progress that has been in the works for quite a few years. The idea, in my opinion, would be that this alternative response force would add the appropriate professional to certain calls for service, making emergency response safer for our vulnerable community members and relieving the workload for our police officers. I have personally been in situations too many times with someone in a mental health crisis and have not called the police out of fear for harm of the individual while they're in that state of crisis. And I think that this, ideally in my mind, is that alternative so that people can feel safe to reach out for the help that they need that is the appropriate health. If someone's having a health crisis, you send medical doctors. If someone's having a mental health crisis, you need to send medical professionals. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a fair housing question. What will you do to stop violations of fair housing laws by landlords? Given that years of landlord education by the city and township have not stopped discriminatory practices amongst some landlords, would you support the following? Using fines, such as starting with a warning and then stepping up penalties for repeat violations. Testing, which means having residents with similar qualifications attempt to seek housing with and without a voucher. Ms. Wilkins.
Yes, I absolutely support enforcing our non-discrimination ordinance in Urbana that applies to housing, employment, and a lot of other areas of society. I support the idea of fines, testing, and I wasn't keeping up with your question there, but I support all of those mechanisms. I was a part of drafting a resolution reaffirming our non-discrimination and clarifying that landlords do not have the right to discriminate on renters or anyone for housing, especially from their source of income, which has been a misunderstanding in some of the enforcement here. So I think it's really important to be clear on what our laws are and enforce them in a fair process and proactively to ensure that people can use the vouchers that they have the right and the need to use to find the housing that they need. That also helps relieve a lot of our other services like temporary housing, emergency housing, and homeless shelters when we can get people in the right housing that they can afford for the long term to have independent living. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Colbrook, what will you do to stop violations of fair housing law by landlords? Given that years of landlord education by the city and township has not stopped discriminatory practices amongst some landlords, would you support the following? Using fines, such as starting with a warning and then stepping up penalties for repeat violations. Testing, which means having residents with similar qualifications attempt to seek housing with and without a voucher.
Well, if we accept the premise that that the communication and other things that have been tried before are not working, there's no reason to stop communication. You continue to communicate. You continue to educate the landlords of what the law is. So I would absolutely support enforcing the fair housing laws in the city of Urbana. I do agree that that fines are acceptable. You know, given that somebody has possibly been given a written warning, and then you know, step those enforcement efforts up. In no way, shape, or form should a resident be tested on their income level, their criminal background, the color of their skin, or their economic status. You know, it's a fundamental right for housing, and the city of Urbana should do everything in their power to ensure that the fair housing laws are enforced.
Mr. Colbert, what do you feel will be the greatest challenge that you'll face in this office?
What was the last part of the greatest challenge of what?
In this office?
Oh, in the office. Great question. I'm humble, but I've got a lot of confidence as well. The challenges that we have are really not of our making. I believe that collectively the city council can band together. We can partner with city staff. We can partner with, obviously, the public, and we can literally solve any problem that's before us. It takes respectful dialogue. It takes being humble in your position. Respect is given and trust is earned. You lead with respect and make sure that that the person that you're talking to understands that they are the most important person in the world that you're talking to at that moment. And then through your words, deeds, and actions, you earn that trust back from the community.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkins, what do you feel will be the greatest challenge that you face in the office?
I think one of the greatest challenges is the pace of things moving, that things move slowly. And myself and a lot of residents and a lot of people in our community want to see certain things happen. And the reality that things move slowly in government for various reasons. So I think for me, that's been a challenge of having some patience and having the persistence and diligence to stick through efforts, to see them through in years-long process. After 4 years, I have finally seen some of the accomplishments of some of the efforts that have started and that have taken years of dedication to see into fruition. So I'd say for me, some of the struggle is having that patience to see long-term things through that can take a while. Thank you.
And Ms. Wilkins, what qualifications do you bring to the table to fulfill your duties of office?
Qualifications, I would say, have a lifetime history in this community. Again, we have different perspectives on things, but I think that I have a lot of touch with the average person of Urbana, and I have the experience here in the past few years on different commissions, on the city council, and educationally, as I mentioned, got degrees in biology, sustainable energy, business administration, and Spanish that provide a unique skill set. I've worked with stakeholders on a lot of different sustainability projects. I understand some of that infrastructure on a community level, and I think that a lot of those skills play into city council. In addition to, as I said, the dedication, taking every weekend to read the packet that's hundreds, if not over 1,000 pages, showing up prepared with questions, with comments, ready to think critically on every single issue that's before us every week for the past 4 years.
Mr. Colbrook, what qualifications do you bring to the table to fulfill the duties of the office?
Well, I feel literally my entire life has allowed me to just be qualified to sit here at this table tonight and to run for office and to hopefully serve once again the residents of Ward 6. I grew up on a farm, and I've got an extremely strong work ethic. Even to this day, I work about 16 hours a day in my jobs. I've got a degree in master's in public administration with an emphasis in government policy. I know government. Government has been my life for years and years and years. I've lived a life of service. I have a servant heart. I wake up every single day wondering, how can I help my community better? I've been a manager for years, probably about 30 years of my professional career. I've led multi-million-dollar budgets, and my years in state government had many, many assignments, which allowed me to know the workings of government at many, many levels. I believe all these things, my problem. Understood?
Mr. Colbrook, I have never had another candidate who's managed to chop off their sentences the minute the stop sign comes up, so thank you for that.
If nothing else, I'm a rules guy. I got you off your game. I'm sorry.
We're going to move from the general to the specific. Mr. Colbrook, how do you plan to address the alleys at Savannah Green?
I will address the alley situation at Savannah Green by assessing the current conditions. First, I'll ensure a thorough assessment of the alleys to ensure that the specific needs, such as lighting, maintenance, and draining issues, are addressed. I will seek community input. I'll engage residents to gather their feedback on what improvements are most needed, ensuring that solutions align with their concerns. I'll collaborate with city services. I'll work with the city departments to prioritize alley repairs, cleanups, and safety upgrades. The capital plan currently has the alley project on it, but there's no money allocated for it. We will improve safety. This could include better lighting, regular maintenance, and improve accessibility to ensure the alleys are safe and well-maintained for the residents. And there's sustainable solutions as well. I'll explore long-term solutions for alley maintenance, ensuring that they are consistently cared for to improve quality of life for the Savannah Green residents.
Thank you. Wilkins, how would you plan to address the alleys at Savannah Green?
Thank you. I understand that this is an important issue with the state of the alleys and the fact that in this unique neighborhood, the alleys are the main access for people into their houses and into their driveways. So these are not secondary, but these are primary transportation networks in this neighborhood. I have already supported the expansion in the city's capital improvement plan to include repairs, which I believe there is funding for some of the alleys in Savannah Green. We didn't have enough for full replacement of all the alleys, but we are starting with repairs based on priorities, which I encourage the Public Works to work closely with the residents to prioritize which alleys should be done first, and working with them to make sure that it's the best that we can do for that community. I think that we also need to consider careful consideration for new road projects. This is not the only instance where we have subpar road construction that was not built the way that it needed to be built in the first place. So I think that's also an important thing when we move forward on new or repairs on our roads, is being sure that things are done properly and built to last as long as possible.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkins, this is a question about homelessness. According to HUD, homelessness among families increased by 37% in 2024, and we've seen a similar rise locally with our local continuum of service providers for the homeless, counting 18 families actively unsheltered going into this winter. What will you do to ensure that none of Urbana's children have to sleep outside in cars, storage units, or abandoned buildings?
Thank you. It's an excellent question, and this is where there is sort of that overlap in the Venn diagram between the city of Urbana and the Cunningham Township, which does a lot of the services. And when you elect your council person, we also sit on the town board. So those are kind of paired units of government there as far as your representative. On the Cunningham Town Board, there's been a lot of work done to ensure that no child in Urbana is outside or in cars or in insufficient housing. And as far as I've been informed, we have been able to meet that goal relatively consistently for the past few years. And that is with an extended network of support, having a presence in the Urbana public schools from the township to connect people to resources and identify some of these instances. And it's also important to have continued funding and resources. So I did recently support moving some of our available funds around, I believe in the tune of $1 million for another round of homeless service fundings that's available for the whole county, because this is also a county-wide, community-wide issue.
Thank you. Mr. Colbrook. According to HUD, homelessness among families increased by 37% in 2024, and we've seen a similar rise locally with our local continuum of service providers for the homeless, counting 18 families actively unsheltered going into the winter. What will you do to ensure none of Urbana's children have to sleep outside in cars, storage units, or abandoned buildings?
I believe as a council member, the council as a whole, the city as a whole needs to make this a priority in our social service budget. I don't doubt a bit that it has increased 37% and it's equal here locally. As small business owners of the Courier Cafe downtown Urbana, there is a large homeless population that exists in downtown Urbana. We know these people personally. They are our neighbors, they're our residents, they are our friends, they're our family, and we see them struggle on a daily basis, suffering food insecurity, home insecurity. There's a lot of issues that they deal with, mental health, addiction. In addition to adults, let's not forget the kids. We personally have housed kids. We have a young lady and her daughter currently in our house, living in one of the bedrooms in our basement because she has no home. You know, we live this personally. You know, so it's in there. You know, it's important to know that we need to remember the kids. You know, the sofa surfers that we've heard of. It's critically important to know that I will support 100% funding for programs that tackle homelessness.
Mr. Colbrook, how will you work together with other council members? And do you have experience working productively and collaboratively with other folks?
I think this is one of my greatest strengths. I have been known to absolutely effectively work with everyone. I've worked with Democrats, I've worked with Republicans, I've worked with virtually everybody. I believe, once again, respect is given and trust is earned. I love the dialogue, I love the diversity of opinion. I want to hear somebody's ideas, I want to hear what opinions they have, and for us to have that important, critical dialogue to try to solve a problem. You know, the greatest strength we have is our diversity, and I don't assume that I'm the smartest person in the room. I'm assuming somebody else in the room probably has a better idea than I do. So I want to listen to what they have. Once again, God gave me one mouth and He gave me 2 ears. I'm going to listen more than I speak, and we can solve problems by collaborating together to come up with solutions to the problems that we have.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkins, how will you work together with other council members, and do you have experience working productively and collaboratively with other folk?
Thank you. I have various experience working with diverse stakeholders in community projects, education, and community leadership. I think it's important to focus on our common goals, to work collaboratively to address those. And I'm also not afraid to disagree and think for myself, and I think that's also an important piece. I think there have been issues where it's a rubber stamp sort of government, and I think there's also an important place for people to have unique thoughts, and I think that disagreement is not a bad thing. I think it's often very constructive, and I think, again, it's coming back to finding the common goals, hearing all the aspects of an issue, and coming up with the best solutions that we can collaboratively as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have raced through these questions, so we're coming to the last one, and it's pretty early, but that's where we're at. So, Ms. Wilkins, what is your economic development plan?
Thank you. With economic development, this has been a goal on the City Council for the past 3 to 4 years and continues to be an essential part of our community. I think that supporting and bringing in new, local, small, minority, veteran-owned businesses is definitely a priority to diversify and expand our businesses in town. And I think whatever else we can do to support them, I think it's important to listen to our businesses and see what their needs are. We've had some incentives in our tax increment financing areas, and there were some funds throughout the pandemic recovery, but I think that we can and need to do more to support our local businesses and to continue that work outside of COVID recovery and continue that as a sustaining part of our funding.
Thank you. Mr. Colbrook, what is your economic development plan?
Once again, this is near and dear to my heart. My wife and I invested in Urbana. We invested in a local business downtown, the Courier Cafe. We live this on a daily basis. It's vitally important to have an economic development plan because it increases revenue, and that increased revenue funds vital city services. I would work to support small businesses, provide resources and incentives to help local businesses grow and thrive, revitalize key areas. I'd focus on underutilized spaces, starting with the Philo Road corridor, and expand all corridors in Urbana, as well as downtown and commercial districts, to attract new businesses and improve the local economy. And we would attract new investments, promote Urbana as a destination for businesses by highlighting our workforce, the infrastructure, and a quality of life, and develop workforce opportunities. We would want to expand job training programs to ensure residents have the skills needed for emerging industries. And then I would also encourage sustainable growth. I'd support developments that align with Urbana's values, balancing economic progress with environmental responsibility.
Thank you. So we now have closing statements. You have 2 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Colbrook.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Champaign County, the NAACP, the IMC, and most importantly, to the residents of Urbana who took the time to be here tonight. Your engagement is what keeps our democracy strong. These are interesting, if not stressful times. Now, more than ever, Urbana needs steady leadership, a representative who is knowledgeable, experienced, and ready to advocate not just for Ward 6, but for all Urbana. Good government should not be defined by what we won't do, but by what we can accomplish together. We must take a forward-looking approach, seeking solutions that move our community ahead rather than remaining stuck in division or inaction. Tonight, I've shared my vision for addressing the critical issues that will shape Urbana's future: public safety, infrastructure, affordable housing, and economic development. These aren't just talking points. They are the building blocks of a stronger, more vibrant Urbana. I am committed to working for all residents, regardless of their background or political ideology, because progress is something we build together. With your support, I will bring a steady hand, a collaborative spirit, a solutions-driven mindset to the Urbana City Council. Thank you again for being here, for your thoughtful engagement, and for caring about the future of our city. I ask for your support and look forward to working with you to move Urbana forward. Have a good night, and to all Urbana residents, please remember to vote by February 25th.
Ms. Wilkins.
Thank you for engaging with this debate tonight. I hope that you've learned more about your candidate choices and feel informed to get out and vote on or before February 25th. I think that it's essential for a representative to be informed on matters of the city, listen to public input, and engage in a transparent democratic process. I would be honored to continue to serve as your Ward 6 representative to stand for a safe community for all our residents. I'm sometimes oversimplified as an anti-police candidate. In reality, I have supported various pay increases, bonuses, and new positions in investigation, leadership, and training for the Urbana Police. Our city budget is almost maxed out, and any further expansions of UPD need careful consideration, public engagement, and policies in place. The current City Council and City Administration have been working for years towards a holistic approach to community safety that involves the development of alternative response task force. This alternative task force response model would send the appropriate professionals to calls for service, again, making it safer for vulnerable community members and relieving the workload of our police officers. We need to have a collaborative and critical discussion on how to further enhance public safety in a way that is safe for residents and financially sustainable. With recent changes on a national level, which are having a professional and personal impact on ourselves, our loved ones, and our community, it's increasingly important to take actions at a local level to protect all our residents, especially those most vulnerable. If reelected, I will continue to push for transparent and fair government, systems of public engagement, and a safe community for all our residents. Thank you.
Thank you to our 2 candidates who have participated tonight and have volunteered to work for one of the most important jobs as a citizen, to be an elected official, and so we appreciate your cooperation in this forum process. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, and IMC, and especially to Dr. Ruby Mendenhall for the poetry, which has given this event a unique Urbana flavor. And thank you to the Urbana City staff who've been very cooperative in setting up the event. Again, the recording can be found on votechampaign.org and on the League's YouTube channel, and also on UPTV. Very special thanks to our timers, Artemis James and Ralph Trimble. And just a reminder, it's not too late to register and vote. You can register all the way up to Election Day and vote that day. Information is available on the League website and the County Clerk's website for how to do this. Please vote. Thank you.